views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Whether she's walking the red carpet or doing interviews, you'll find her with celebrities and all the latest news. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere, she's always on the go. So sit back, relax, and get ready, 'cause it's the Corey Taylor Talks Show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corey Taylor Talks live from Las Vegas. I'm so excited about my guest today because actually we've known each other for quite a few years now, and I just think you're incredible. You're so talented, and everyone knows I love magicians in the first place. So now that I finally get to have you on, it's gonna be great. So Tommy Wynn, so how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on the show. How you been?
Oh, I've been great. I'm so glad. It's been forever since we've seen each other, but I'm so glad we finally get you on.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm glad to be here. Finally, very excited to finally be able to do the show with you.
Yeah, so let's get straight into it. Okay, because like I said, I think magicians are incredible, and it's so cool. I couldn't even begin to imagine doing it, and I couldn't even imagine how you start. So how did you get into it?
So I started doing magic when I was about 7 years old. My
Wow.
grandfather showed me my very first trick. He showed me how to make a handkerchief disappear. I thought it was the coolest trick ever. I practiced every day, and then I practiced until in my teen years I got my first job as a magician. I started doing card tricks in a pizzeria just to get my skills up, and that was my first job as a magician. And I just practiced every day from there. I wound up showing friends in school, and then I would show family, and then I got my parents then would get me a magic set. They'd take me to Tannen's magic shop, and little by little I progressed. I started buying magic books, started reading about how to do different magic tricks, and then I started watching videos online of different magicians like David Copperfield and a lot of the greats. I watched the David Blaine specials, and I started realizing, hey, that seems like something really fun to do. And then I made up little business cards, and in my teen years I started doing birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, weddings, and I realized, hey, I could make a living at this, and maybe even go further than just doing the parties.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think it's so cool. And, you know, a lot of people, like, I think when I was little too, I was like, I wanted to be a magician. That obviously didn't happen. So how do you, like, actually go from, learning a trick or two to, like, really getting serious about it?
Sure. Well, you know, for me, what it was a progression over time.
Gotcha.
So first, like I was saying, I did those birthday parties, and then I would do, and then little by little, then I would do a little bit of a bigger event, and then a bigger event. Then I started realizing, hey, well, I can't just do close-up magic forever. I got to do some of the bigger tricks. So then I would do a bunch of gigs and save up money and buy a bigger trick and buy, sort of an illusionette, as we call it in the business, and then be able to perform for over 50 people to 100 people. And then started doing charity events around Staten Island, New York, where I'm from, and little by little just graduating to each part of the magic industry, and then realizing that the ultimate goal would be Las Vegas, and I always had that in my mind, but the way that I got from point A to point B wasn't a straight line. It was just, it's all over the place. You really don't know, you don't know what's going to influence you. You don't know what's going to basically, a lot of magicians might just go into mentalism. That's a part of magic. Or some magicians are general practitioners. I'm a general practitioner. I do everything: mentalism, grand scale illusions, small sleight of hand. But some people gravitate towards, hypnosis is sort of a form of magic entertainment. I don't do any hypnosis, but there's different forms and different levels of magic entertainment. And for me, I just watching different videos online and seeing the magic TV specials, I sort of gravitated towards all different styles of magic. So, and little by little just progressed.
Yeah. And so you said your grandpa taught you your first trick. Was he into magic at all?
He was. So he came over on the boat from Italy in 1947.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was an amateur magician. Just he would do it for friends and family. Yeah. And he had this one trick where he would make a coin disappear. It was a quarter. And from what he told me, he came over on the boat from Italy and he had no money in his pocket, but he started doing this coin trick and would make the coin disappear. And people would keep giving him coins and he'd make it disappear. And he would,
smart.
yeah, and he would tell everybody that, it's not going to come back, but they
Right.
gave him the coins anyway. And he said when he got off the boat, he walked off the boat from Italy, and he had a whole shirt full of change, and that was his first
That's
money that he
great.
started here with. Yeah.
How funny. And then it progressed, and now he's grandson. I
Yep.
mean, really, that's amazing. How cool.
Yep.
And so you said your ultimate goal was always Vegas. What made you choose Vegas? Why Vegas?
Well, when I was around 9.5 years old, my family came to Vegas. It was myself, my mom, and my dad. We all came here on a family vacation with some of their friends. And, it's funny. At that point, I was enjoying magic. I was doing magic little by little. But it's really funny. This is why I say that it's not a straight line. You never know what's going to happen. If I hadn't seen David Copperfield when I was 9 years old at the MGM Grand, I don't know if I would have continued being in magic. I might have been in some other form of entertainment. But I saw his show, and I didn't even, at that point, at 9 years old, I didn't know. I heard the name David Copperfield, but what had happened was our friend Joey said, let's go see David Copperfield. And they said, my parents, oh, it's a magic show. So we went there, and I saw this amazing show. And at that point, I said, wow, I really love magic. And the idea started to progress that, there's magic shows in Vegas. Maybe one day I'll come to Las Vegas. So that planted the seed. And then years later, I came out to Vegas once again. But now, while I was in the magic world, and I realized Vegas was the magic capital of the world. And then I saw Jeff McBride perform. I saw Rick Thomas. I saw Lance Burton. And after I saw Lance Burton, I said, wow. I said, oh my God, because that was a great show. I said, I want to have a show like that in Vegas one day. So.
That's right. And here you are.
Yeah,
did it.
yeah.
You did it, which is amazing because there are so many magicians out there, and it's a very hard position to get into. I don't need to tell you.
No, yeah.
But I mean, so the fact that you did it and successfully, and you're performing, and you're getting so recognized as it's very well deserved. I mean, it's really amazing. Very amazing.
Yeah, it's getting into it is the easy part. Learning how to do some of the tricks, is difficult, but getting into being a magician is, I don't want to say fairly easy on the practice end of it. You got to practice, but learning magic is fairly easy, whether they're not high end skill.
I don't know about that.
Well, but actually being, getting any level of success in magic becomes difficult because, and I always say there's a reason why, because you could have 1,000 famous singers, you could have 1,000 famous movie stars, but there are different levels in magic because there are only so many tricks, and you could only cut an assistant in half in so many ways. You could only levitate in so many ways. You could only make something disappear in so many ways, even though some of those ways do look original. So at any given time, you're not really going to have an abundance of super famous magicians. There's usually maybe about 4 or 5 per decade, and I'm not even saying that I'm one of those. You know what I mean?
I would say.
Oh well, I'm trying to hopefully make my mark on the magic world.
You are already. Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm trying the best that I can, and I try to come up with original stuff and. I enjoy performing in Las Vegas, but at the same point in time, I realize that not only is it a competitive industry, but if magicians helped each other more, and they're starting to, it becomes easier for everyone. I get calls all the time from people that say, hey, I want to bring my show to Las Vegas, and I'm going to make a ton of money, and I'm going to do all this great stuff. And the thing is that I've already done it for the past 10 years, and I didn't do it by myself. I had help from amazing people, and those people, my mother and father have always been behind me.
Love both of them.
Huge family support. My wife Stacy, huge family support, and many people who have helped me in my career in so many different ways. One of our mutual friends, Bob, has supported me in what I do. A few of my friends back in New York, Pam and Bill, supported my career. They were some of my first investors. So there's a it doesn't just happen overnight.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely not, yeah.
Masters of Illusion has helped me
Yes.
tremendously.
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I've been on 50 episodes at this point,
Wow.
and yeah, and it's
God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really boosted my career tremendously. So I owe a lot to them, and then also, you know, for the years that I was at the old Tommy Wynn Theater, we had that for a number of 5 years. Before that, I was at the Clarion. So there's so much that has gone into it. It's not just a straight line, you know, and you know, now being over at the Oyo Casino, it's a blast. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. But at the same time, I do realize that you have to one-up yourself all the time. And if you don't, you sort of, you know, you can make a great living, but, you know, you're not going to get to that next level until you really, you know, break through and one-up yourself.
Absolutely. No, but you absolutely are doing that. And every time I see you, you're doing something new and better. And I really just think that's amazing. And it shows how hard you work, because like you said, it's not an easy thing, and every single level you get to takes forever. But you've been doing it, and you're doing incredible, and you're really getting recognized. And I do want to talk about Masters of Illusion too. That is such a cool thing to be part of. And 50 episodes, oh my gosh.
Yeah, 50 episodes. I mean, now not all of those episodes have aired here in the U.S. Some of them have aired overseas, and some of them have aired on different
international
international stuff,
right.
and not just Masters of Illusion. Also, some of those things have aired on the Hallmark Channel as well too, for the Hollywood Christmas Parade, where I was one of the Masters of Illusion that performed on the Hollywood Christmas. So all of that compiled together, I think it's over 50 episodes. But I say I can't keep track, so I say 50 episodes to be conservative, you know. So, but it's probably over that by now.
That's great. Yeah. No, I mean, what an awesome thing. And like I said, I just think it's so cool. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people need to kind of work together, and you know, I've had several on, and like you said, it does seem like they're finally working together. Kind of sharing. How do you create new tricks? And so, do you talk to other magicians, or like, how does it work? Yeah,
well, you know, it's funny. There are actually, believe it or not, a lot of magicians create their own illusions, but then there's a whole subculture of illusion builders and illusion engineers who build and operate. One of my illusion engineers, his name is Dave Pavlov. Another person that helps me on a very large basis is Douglas Leftovich. And they help me with consulting and designing illusions and stuff like that, and coming up with ideas, new ideas, different stuff. And you know, basically what happens is, a lot of the times the magicians, if you have a close friend magician, you'll call that person and bounce an idea off of them. But you got to make sure that, you know,
they also don't steal it.
Yeah, most of the time these people, they're doing their own shows, and I have made the mistake in the past to tell a friend or two an idea, and then the next thing you know, they're doing it in their act, and they pretend that they didn't know that you're the one that, you know. And then so you got to be careful. You got to know who to trust in the business as well too. But you know, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of great people, thank God, on my team and on my side and supporting me, and also, you know, people that I've worked with in Masters of Illusion. I mean, a lot of the time, you know, there's 4 or 5 guys on the tour, and if we're all performing together, we all get along, and we all will sit in the dressing room and we'll share ideas and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Most of the time we're talking about where we're going to eat after the show, but I mean, you know, stuff like that.
No, that's so cool. Yeah, because like I said, I just think it's so amazing. And you know, like you said, there's so many different types of magic. What's your favorite kind that you like to do?
My favorite kind of magic to do is actually sleight of hand and large scale illusions. The one I enjoy the most while I'm doing it is comedy magic.
Gotcha.
But I never say that my show is a comedy magic show, because I like that to sort of be a surprise afterwards.
Gotcha.
You know, and like when people come to the show, they're expecting to see a straightforward magic show. And it's funny, a lot of people will sit there and they'll watch the show, and they don't realize that I do a lot of comedy in the show. And halfway through the show, they start realizing that, well, not halfway, 5 minutes into the show, they start realizing that this is sort of, you know, slapstick. It's funny. Gotcha. It's, you know, he's not being serious. He doesn't actually think he really has magical powers and is doing this stuff. There are guys that do that. There are guys, and then if a trick messes up, there's no recovery. I had a trick mess up the other night that no one knew it messed up because of the comedy that I threw in.
Well, that's great. That worked out well.
Yeah, they thought, oh, that's part of the act.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's funny. You know, I gotta ask that, because you hear rumors and stuff. I know people have said like there's actual people that do really have magic. Do you think that's possible that there are some people who have magic? Have you ever seen someone that you really think
I've
so?
never been up to this point. I have never been fooled by any trick.
Really?
I haven't been. I mean, early on I was before I was a magician, but at this point it is very hard to fool me. And if someone, and I'm not the type of person to argue and say, hey, but I don't think that it's proper to state that you have real magical powers. When to the rest of the magic community, it's something you could buy for $700, and that's what, there's some trick. I mean, tricks go a lot more expensive than $700, but I'm just giving you an example. If someone's saying that, so I mean, there was a guy years ago that said he had a telekinesis power. And he was able to, it was years ago, I saw this actually on a YouTube video. He said he was able to flip a page of a book by just staring at it. And they put him on the show, and they put all these different obstacles around him. And he said he couldn't muster the energy to do it because of the studio lights or whatever it was. And it was because it wasn't in the conditions that he liked. And he was stating that he really did have telekinetic powers. And in my experience, and I'm not saying that there's no,
definitely not a possibility.
Well, it's not definitely. There's unexplained things in this world that I can't explain, that other people can't explain, and at the same point in time, so I'm not saying it's impossible.
Right.
I'm not saying that I don't believe that there are people who could meditate and heal themselves or do whatever it may be, but I'm certainly not I don't condone people coming out and saying I'm a real magician. I could really control the weather or this or read your mind or something like that. I mean, I've had people try to read my mind, and there's always something that's done beforehand.
That always gets, and I know like I probably look like an idiot to someone like you, but I'm
not at all. Not at all. It's just, here's the thing, the stuff is designed to fool you. It's designed to make you guess and wonder, So that's really that's really what it is. But the guys that do say, hey, we're illusionists, that's why we call ourselves illusionists, and we create illusions. Not to say that there really are people out there that maybe do have some supernatural power. I'm not the authority on it, so I can't say. So
yeah, no, I'm just curious because even there is a movie actually called The Illusionist, which I love, with Edward Norton. Oh my god, amazing!
Great movie.
The whole point of the movie, when I first saw it, you're thinking like, oh my god, he really might have this, and then it kind of shows everything and how he did it and stuff. So it was kind of amazing to see, and I'm sure, like you said, it's easy for people like you who do know it to figure it out, but for us, it's like, what in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's. I mean, I sit around. There's times that I'll get an epiphany and something. I'll be like, oh my god, if I just move this there, that would even fool a magician. And, so that's our biggest goal, is to figure out how to come up with illusions to fool magicians. Because if it's fooling magicians, then it's really gonna take the audience for a spin.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think that's so cool. And do you have like maybe a favorite trick for you to perform? Or?
Yeah. Right now, my favorite trick that I do in the show right now is the finale trick. It's called Subtrunk. It's an illusion that was created by Harry Houdini in the 1900s, and it's a fast-paced sleight of body type trick where you have to escape basically from an apparatus in a certain amount of time.
Gotcha.
So and it's very visual. It's a great trick. It's really good.
I think it's so cool. It's just amazing. And so you said Harry Houdini and stuff. Do you have maybe like a favorite magician? Or?
Yeah, my favorite magician is David Copperfield. Okay. I think that by all means,
he kind of influenced.
Well, yeah, he did, but by all means, and I know a lot of magicians will say Harry Houdini, and a lot of magicians will say a lot of different things, but the reason why I say David Copperfield, because as far as I know, he was as far as I could see, he was really one of the only magicians that on his TV specials was able to break a fourth wall and come into the audience. I'm also I'm a fan of Chris Angel. Chris has been very nice to me throughout my career, and I'm a fan of David Blaine as well too. Fan of Lance Burton. Fan of the great Harry Blackstone and Gay Blackstone, and there's a number of magicians that I truly respect and that I really like, and a lot of them are my friends as well too. So. But yeah, my favorite, I would say, the one I don't like use the word favorite. The one I probably respect the most on developing illusions that have never been done before and how to perform them is probably David Copperfield. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Absolutely. And I've seen his show growing up
Yeah.
forever because I'm born and raised Vegas. So,
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I got to see all of that since I was 2. My mom would take me to magic shows, but he's incredible.
Yeah, he is. And Lance Burton is incredible
Right.
as well, too.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
he was another show that I just love Lance. I mean, Lance is just one of the sweetest guys in the world, and I really enjoyed watching his show as well. It's funny, being a huge fan of David Copperfield, where I perform is literally right across the street from David Copperfield.
Right.
So we're driving into work every day. It's pretty surreal to say, hey, somebody I
Awesome.
looked up to for a long time I'm performing right next door. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's such a cool thing, and the whole field is just amazing. So actually, I'm getting questions and everything.
Oh,
I
sure.
wanted to pull up. But yeah, so you said Jeff McBride was your mentor
Yes.
for a while, correct?
Incredible
So-
magician,
Yeah,
yeah.
So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, Jeff McBride was my mentor. When I turned 18 years old, actually at 16 years old, I took private courses from Jeff, and then I went to the Magic and Mystery School out here in Las Vegas when I was about 18, and that's about it's a full week of sort of magic training, but not just sort of how to do tricks, but sort of the magic behind the magic. How they teach you management skills and a whole bunch of different things. More or less teaches you a lot of the business behind show business as well. And so he helped that on a generic basis. And Jeff has just always been phenomenal, and he's an incredible sleight of hand artist as well. So really enjoyed working with Jeff.
See, I think that, like you said, the up close and sleight of hand, I think that's so impressive because you're right there. It's so, like, I don't know. I love all of it. I just think
Sure.
it's absolutely amazing. So the fact that you can master, and you said since you were young, you were able to do the up close and stuff. I mean, that's really amazing.
Yeah, it was something I realized if you really put your mind to anything, and I applied the same skills that I applied to learning card magic to putting my contact lenses in, and it worked out pretty well. So now I can do it one hand walking. So
And when so I know you said that you've literally never seen a trick that you were able to
Yeah,
figure
sure.
out. I know there's kind of like a magician's code or whatever. I also know there's been like several magicians who kind of broken that and released
Sure,
secrets and stuff. So how does the community kind of deal with that, or as these kind of figure it's going to get out there anyways, or?
a lot of magicians are going to hate me for saying this, but the truth of the matter is that when people don't want to really know how the stuff's done, they'll watch the episode, and because they're not that interested in knowing how it's done, they usually forget it. And I'll tell you why. There was an episode of one of those shows where they reveal the tricks a night before a huge show I was doing in New York. And the next day, literally all the tricks that I was doing in the show the next day,
They showed everything.
And I said, oh my God, I'm going to walk into this theater tomorrow. Everybody's going to know how it's done because it was, and you know something? Not a single person watched the show. I mean, and then when you think
Interesting.
about it, you got, if you were just talking about American television, you got over 370 million people living here, 80 million of which have access to television, I believe, or on some type of streaming platform network or something like that. Maybe 200 million now with Netflix and all those things. I don't know the exact numbers. Don't
Right.
hold
No,
me to
but
it.
I know what you mean.
But
Yeah.
we're in that range. That's me paraphrasing from numbers I've read over the past 10 years.
Right.
But we're looking at those numbers. So if that show has a rating of 1 million people, we're looking at less than 1% of any audience that's going out to see a live show that may or may not be in that audience that night. So the truth of the matter is, when that happens, what I think magicians should really do is jump in and figure out, well, if this trick's been revealed, people know how it's done, I need to figure out a new way to heighten and elevate the art of magic. Instead of blaming, their losses and everything on the guy that did it or whatever the case may be. It is sad that magicians do stoop to that level. And they do reveal tricks. It is sad because people do lose some livelihood over that. But at the same point in time, you got to always look at it as, okay, here's an obstacle, and how do I get over that obstacle? And how do I create a stairway over the obstacle to help me create success? So that was one thing I always said. If there's an obstacle in front of you, if you look closely enough at it, it's really a stairway to success, because now it's forcing you to come up with a new trick.
Right. That's true. Yeah, it's kind of interesting you say that, because I remember there was this magician I loved, and I used to watch his show and stuff all the time. And when I got older, I actually knew friends that were extras in the show.
Oh,
and they
really?
were
Okay.
like, oh, that wasn't real. We were doing this. And I was like, oh, I don't want to know that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's-
obviously, you know it's a trick, but then when you hear it, you're like, oh, I don't want to know that.
Yeah, you know, you
Yeah.
know, it's you really don't. I mean, people. I mean, there's a few different types of people. Some people will come to a magic show and people will say, hey, you know, I want to learn how it's done. 2, I want to be entertained. 3, I want to be astonished. You know, so some people are coming there. They want to see the dancing and the dancing assistants, and they want to see the comedy and the lighting, and they want to be entertained. Other people want to be truly shocked, and other people are there to figure out how it
Right.
works. So
Yeah, no, you kind of got to deal with everything, and that's going to be a tough thing.
yeah, you can't take it too seriously
Right.
because at the end of the day, it's tricks. We're doing tricks. We're doing illusions. Yeah, you know, here's the thing: the same amount of work goes into illusions as someone that is going and doing a play and acting and learning lines, and you know, maybe or someone who's learning acrobats. You know, if someone took those same skills and applied them to illusions, somebody could learn them. The showmanship is something you really have to, you know, hone in on and develop. But I think the big mistake a lot of magicians make is they go on stage, you know, and they get this sort of, you know, I'm really doing magic syndrome.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, we're not really doing magic.
Right.
We're entertainers. We're
Right.
trying to entertain you. You know?
Yeah. I got to ask, there's this magician, Jimmy Grippo. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of Jimmy Grippo.
Okay. Now, obviously, you don't have to say how he did it, but there was this trick that I know, like, really a lot of people couldn't figure out. Maybe you could. But basically, you know, Elizabeth Taylor's ring, it was, like, the most famous ring. It was, like...
Yes, I believe so.
So, one time, her and Richard Burton were at a restaurant, and he said he was the in-house magician. And he said, give me your ring. And they were like, I don't know. And she ended up giving it to him, and he ended up smashing it. And they saw it completely smashed. And they were livid. I mean, this ring had to be like, and at the time,
Millions, yeah.
millions and millions of dollars. And so they were livid. And then he ended up bringing out a sealed envelope that he sealed a loaf of bread.
No,
He
okay.
ended up bringing a loaf of bread. And he had it for a couple days, and it was in the middle of the loaf of bread. And I know a lot of people said they weren't able to figure it out. Have you ever heard that trick? Do you know?
I heard something like that trick. That's a very good take on a trick. That's a really good. I've heard of Jimmy Grippo. I've heard he's a very talented magician,
Right.
and I think that's a wonderful trick. That's really
Interesting.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So you
know.
think you could figure it out then? You already
I
know what
could-
it is?
I don't. You know, it's what we do. It's
right.
what
No,
we
absolutely,
it's what we
absolutely.
do. I mean, you know, I know how it's almost what's the right way of saying this? That's a clever take on that trick.
Interesting. Okay.
And the thing is, most tricks are clever takes on other tricks.
Right.
You know, and I haven't seen the video of that trick,
Right, of
so I
course,
don't
right.
exactly know the exact method, but I know about 15 different ways that you could do something like that.
Really? That's
However,
okay, yeah.
that's not to take away from the talent that it
Oh, no,
takes
right.
to do that, to pull it off. It's a difficult thing to do. You know, I'm probably the worst person to ask about how things are done, or if it's, you know, because I do have that jaded sense about me because I've seen so much in magic. And it's sort of to the point where now I look at, instead of the trick, I look at the skill that it took to do the trick.
Gotcha.
Which sleight of hand method was used.
Gotcha.
Which preconditioning method was used. So,
Right.
for example, if he had the loaf of bread for a long time, you know, how did he, you know, figure out how to make this illusion work properly as an
Right.
illusion? However, that is a incredible feat of magic to pull off.
Right.
And it is a difficult feat of magic to pull off, and you need to have a lot of skill to do it. So I applaud him for doing that trick and taking the risk that's involved with the trick
Right.
as well. So
Interesting. Yeah, I know. And there's so many incredible tricks out there. Do you have one that really, like you said, I know you knew what it was,
Yeah,
but
sure.
do you have one that really just kind of blew your mind when you first saw it?
Ooh. I'm thinking. It's
gotta be
It's
hard. No,
rough.
I know, yeah.
Let's maybe. pre being a magician or while I'm a
Well,
magician?
Well,
it's
probably
gonna
while you were a magician.
while I was a
because
magician. Okay, I'd probably say
Like I said, even though you know what it was, maybe just like you said, the skillmanship that came with it.
yes. I think that one of the tricks that was really astonishing to me while I was a magician was probably
That's got to be difficult.
oh boy, this is I know how everything works, so it's really rough. I mean, something happens and I go, I know exactly what to look for. I'd probably say one of the tricks that really astonished me the first time that I had ever seen it, and I saw it on a TV special, was when David Copperfield did, it was called One Illusion, and he appeared on top of a piece of plexiglass out of nowhere. So that was pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, so that was a good one. It took me a minute, and then I was like, okay, but it took me a minute. So for a minute, I was a kid again. So
that's right. That's right. No, I think it's so amazing, and I love it. So I think it's so
thank
cool.
you so much.
And like you said, you're so talented. And why don't we talk about your show?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So tell us about it.
So the show is at the Oyo Hotel and Casino. So Oyo used to be the Hooters Hotel and Casino, and now it's Oyo. And my show is there every night except for Mondays and Tuesdays. So I'm on Wednesdays through Sundays, and it is a awesome little theater. It's we seat about 200 people, so there's not a bad seat in the house. And in Vegas, that's exactly the kind of room
I was going to say
want.
that's like a perfect amount of people.
Yes.
It's not too much, not too little. It's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in Las Vegas, I mean, I go on the roads. I do the 2,000 seat theaters all the time. However, in Vegas, since there's so many shows, so much competition, you want 200 seats, because if you fill even half of it on a slow night, it's still, the energy is still good in the room, and that's the main thing you're looking for too. You want good energy. In a 1,000-seat room with 200 people, the energy isn't where you really want it to be.
Right.
So in a 200-seat room with 150 people or 200 people, and then in the summertime and Christmas time when it's busy, you get 200 people a show. It's great. It really is. And it's an awesome little theater, and it's ran by a company called Admit VIP. They got a lot of other great shows over there. They got a Motown show, Motown Extreme. They got Cherry Boom Boom. They got Hilarious 7. They have Jokesters Comedy Club, The Man Who Knows, which is a mentalist that's at the property. So a lot of great shows on the property. They got some great restaurants there as well too. My show is about an hour and 15 minutes long, depending on the audience participation. And I do everything from sleight of hand magic to large grand scale illusions. We got some great lights and lighting in the show, great sound effects. We got a great team that's there at the show. So, but the show's fun. I mean, it's really heavy on the audience participation, and it's family friendly. It is.
That's cool. And that's pretty rare too.
And that's the thing. I won an award 2 years ago for best family friendly magic show.
That's amazing.
And because you need, that's the biggest question I get all the time. Is the show good for my kids? Right. Can I bring my kids to the show? And the answer to that question is yes. This show is 100% family friendly. There aren't even innuendos that go over the kids' heads. Right. There's nothing dirty in the show. Great. No, double entendres, anything like that. It's all clean, good family fun.
That's the way it should be. Yeah. Absolutely. Because the world, there's so much negativity and stuff, and like you said, like even I watching back kids shows and as an adult, you're like, oh my god, like, I mean, was in there, and I understand it doesn't really affect the kid's brain, but I think it kind of does.
Well,
now a big thing.
Well, now in this day and age, I mean, everything has become so much more accessible,
right?
And I think with social media and everything like that, younger generations are catching on to stuff more than they did years ago.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And now, so you can't really make the same jokes that you used to make years ago for the adults and figure, the kids aren't going to get it anyway. You can't really do that anymore because the kids are getting it now. So and there, it hasn't happened to me, but there are shows where those jokes happen and the parents get upset, and they'll say something afterwards and be like, hey, I thought it was a kid's show. Right. And so my show isn't a kid's show per se, but it's a family show,
which is awesome.
Yeah, so if
I love that. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, it's a the reason why I say it's a great show is not because I'm patting myself on the back saying it's a great show. It's a great.
Although you should.
Oh well, it's a great show because everybody works together. The whole team there works together to make it a great show. Right. Because without the lights, without the sound, without the crew, it doesn't then it doesn't manifest into a really
Right.
good show. So if it was just me, it would be an okay show. But since we all work together to make a really good show, then it's a great show. So
That's great. And I think that's awesome that you show it's a team effort too, because unfortunately a lot of people are like, oh, it's me and I'm the best, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But it is. It's behind every successful person is this huge team that really helps them. And that's amazing that you have that and they support you and you support them. That's amazing.
There is. And, and at this show right now, and my family's involved with this show, of course. So my family, my mom and dad, my mom's actually in the show, and my mom and dad are there helping me with the show all the time,
So cool.
visiting the ticket brokers, all that stuff. Everybody over at Admit VIP is great. They've treated me very, very well. The casino's incredible, the team that's there. But at this particular show, there's like a team of that actually make the show run about 5 to 7 people. When I go out on the road, I bring about 25 to 30 people with me on the
Wow.
road. So yeah,
Wow.
because you have 5 dancers
Right.
and you have stage crew and techs
Right.
and the guys that drive the bus, the guys that drive the truck. You got the lighting people, the sound people,
That's
the stage
crazy.
crew. You got the fly rail men, the people that
Right.
make the curtains go up and down. So I mean, we bring out a big team with us. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. That's you see, you don't even think about half
Yeah.
of the stuff that goes into it. Wow.
Yeah, and the expense that goes into
Oh,
it
yeah,
too.
I'm
So,
sure.
yeah, so-
That's a big one, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tommy, for being on. And please tell people where they can follow you and go to the show.
Yeah,
and
sure.
watch
You
it
could
and everything.
you could follow me on Instagram or Facebook under Tommy Wind, and also you could check me out at the Oyo Hotel and Casino every night except for Mondays and Tuesdays at 5:00 p.m. The show's about an hour and 15 minutes. Great for families, and I now dedicate the whole show to my beautiful newborn baby boy River and my wife
in the
Stacy.
world.
Yeah.
Cutest thing.
Aw,
That's
thank you
amazing.
so
I'm so
much.
happy for you.
Thank you so much.
And you're such a good person. I'm so glad you are successful because you're such a great person. You're doing great things, and your show's amazing, and you're just so talented. So thank you so much for being on. It was really
Thank
an
you so
honor.
much. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please go check out everything. Support him. Go see the show because it's amazing. And like you said, for all ages, which is so rare, especially in Vegas. So thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, never give up. Always believe, and you'll achieve. Thinking. God bless.